At 2:13 in the morning, Celeste Arden's wheelchair began moving without her hand on the controls. The chair rolled away from the long conference table on the 31st floor of Forge 9. It turned toward the wall of glass overlooking the Black River and the sleeping lights of Pittsburgh. Slowly at first, then faster, Celeste hit the stop command. Nothing happened. She pulled the emergency paddle beneath the armrest. The chair accelerated. Across the room, a man in a gray work jacket dropped the panel he had been carrying and ran. He caught the rear frame, 3 feet before the glass, planted both boots against the polished floor, and dragged the chair sideways until one wheel struck a steel column hard enough to bend the footplate. The motor kept pushing. He tore open the control housing with a screwdriver, cut one blue wire, then another. The chair went dead. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city burned below them in clean lines of amber and white. A red warning light flashed inside the open control box. On the carpet near Celeste's right wheel lay a small tin firefly lamp that had fallen from an 8-year-old girl's backpack earlier that evening. Its metal wings were dented. Its tiny painted eyes still faced the ceiling. The man picked it up, checked the base, and put it carefully on the table. Then he looked at Celeste and said the one sentence that would divide her life into everything before it and everything after. That was not a malfunction. His name was Jonah Mercer. He had worked for her for 17 days. He was a single father with an old truck, an overdue rent notice, and a daughter who drew gears in the margins of her spelling homework. Celeste believed she had hired him because he understood machines. She did not yet know that he understood this machine because he had helped design the system buried inside it. She did not know a laboratory had burned because he tried to stop that system from being released. And she did not know the people who had caused the fire had spent 4 years searching for the evidence hidden inside the little tin firefly on her table. If you believe the most dangerous truths are often carried by the quietest people, take a moment to like this story and tell me where you are listening from. Then stay with me, because 17 days earlier, when Celeste Arden offered a desperate father a job, she had no idea she was inviting the only man who could expose what had really put her in a wheelchair into the center of her company. 17 days earlier, the residential lift stopped between floors, while snowmelt ran in gray lines down the windows of Arden House. Celeste was inside it. The lift had not fallen. It had simply locked 8 inches below the second-floor landing, which was almost worse. Falling created urgency. Stopping created witnesses. Alma Reeves, who had managed the house since Celeste was 11, stood on the landing with one hand against the glass door and the other holding a phone to her ear. "The service company says 90 minutes, Alma said. "Tell them they have 20. They cannot cross the river in 20. Then they should have maintained the equipment well enough that crossing the river was unnecessary." Alma lowered the phone. She had silver hair, sensible shoes, and the calm of someone who had watched 3 generations of wealthy people mistake volume for control. "You approved postponing the annual service?" she said. Celeste looked through the glass at her. "I approved postponing it by 5 days. Machines do not read calendars." Celeste turned back toward the lift panel. The touchscreen showed a white error square without a code. She pressed the manual call button again. Nothing. The lift was large enough for her chair and one standing person. It had brushed steel walls, quiet motors, and a price that had once made a contractor speak with religious reverence. None of that mattered when it stopped 8 inches below a floor. She could not open the door fully. She could not reverse. The chair battery showed 41%. Her first investor call began in 34 minutes. "Call Owen," she said. "Mr. Kessler is at Forge 9. Then call someone who is not 90 minutes away." Alma did. The person who arrived 18 minutes later came in an old green truck with a cracked passenger mirror and a ladder tied to the roof, using 2 different colors of rope. Celeste saw it through the atrium window after the lift lights blinked twice. The truck stopped beside the stone steps with a cough of exhaust. A man climbed out wearing a work jacket faded at the elbows. He opened the passenger door, spoke to someone inside, then crossed the courtyard carrying a black tool case. Alma met him at the entrance. "Jonah Mercer." "Yes, ma'am." Riverside Access Systems. She dislikes, ma'am. Most people who dislike it tell me themselves. Alma's mouth moved by half an inch. For her, that was almost a smile. Jonah followed her through the house, wiping his boots twice without being asked. He was 38, though the tiredness around his eyes added years when he was not smiling. His hair needed cutting. His hands were marked with the small, pale scars of someone who had spent a long time reaching into machinery that could bite. He stopped at the lift door and crouched. How long has it been locked? 27 minutes, Celeste said from inside. He looked through the glass. His gaze did not drop to the chair first. It went to the panel, the guide rail, the thin misalignment between the car and the landing. Did it shudder before it stopped? Once? Left side or right? Right. Any sound. A metallic click. Then the alarm tone. He set down his case. Do not try the door again. I was not planning to. Good. He removed the landing plate and exposed the lock assembly. Alma watched him. Celeste watched both of them. The service company said the brake sensor failed, Alma said. They guessed from the model number. You sound certain. I have guessed from model numbers too. Usually, before I learned better. Jonah reached into the housing, then paused. Who updated the lift controller? Celeste's attention sharpened. What update? Firmware stamp says 6 weeks ago. The service company handled it remotely. Did they tell you? They sent a maintenance notice. That is not the same thing. He withdrew a narrow black relay, no bigger than 2 fingers. One edge was darkened. This is your problem. The new controller sends a higher pulse than the original lock relay was rated to take. It welded closed. Can you open it? Yes. How long? 8 minutes if no one asks how long again. Celeste stared at him. Alma turned away before her expression could be seen. Jonah worked in silence. He bypassed the relay, secured the car, and used a hand crank to raise it, the remaining 8 inches. When the door finally opened, Celeste rolled out without looking relieved. Relief was private. Efficiency could be witnessed. The permanent repair? She asked. New relay. Isolation board. Full controller rollback until the manufacturer fixes the pulse mapping. Do it today. I can get the parts by 4. Then do it by 5. Jonah closed the service panel. The safe answer is by 7. I am paying for the safe answer, or the slow one. Today, they are the same answer. Most contractors changed when they recognized her. Their voices became softer, or more eager. They mentioned Arden motion. They found reasons to say they admired what she had built. Jonah did none of those things. He looked at the wheels of her chair only when one of them crossed the lifted threshold. Then his eyes narrowed. Your right motor is running warm. Celeste stopped. It was serviced last month. Maybe. That is a remarkable level of confidence from a man standing in my hallway with a borrowed relay. It is my relay. The confidence, Mr. Mercer. He touched the outside of the motor housing with 2 fingers. This should not be warm after sitting still half an hour. Either the brake is dragging or the controller is feeding current when it should not. The chair is custom. Custom machines fail in custom ways. It was built by Arden Motion's medical division. Something moved across his face. Not recognition exactly, recognition with fear behind it. It vanished so quickly, Celeste might have imagined it. Then your medical division should look at it, he said. They have them look again. He picked up his case. A small voice came from the atrium. Dad. Jonah closed his eyes for one beat. An 8-year-old girl stood just inside the front door, wearing a yellow raincoat over her school uniform. Her dark hair had escaped one braid. A canvas backpack hung from both shoulders, and in her hands she held a tin lamp shaped like a firefly. Its punched metal wings threw small dots of light across her coat. Alma looked toward the entrance. Then at Jonah. I told her to stay in the truck, he said. The girl lifted her chin. A bird landed on the ladder and looked angry. That is not a reason to enter a stranger's house. The doors opened when I pushed them. That is also not a reason. She noticed Celeste. Her gaze paused on the chair, then moved to Celeste's face. Hello. Celeste was accustomed to children looking too long, looking away too quickly, or looking at the adults beside them for instructions. This child did none of those things. Hello, Celeste said. Your house sounds like a refrigerator. Alma examined the ceiling, as if answers might be stored there. Jonah rubbed a hand over his face. Wren, this is Miss Arden. Miss Arden, my daughter Wren. Her school closed early because a pipe burst. The neighbor who was watching her had to leave for work. She was supposed to remain in the truck for 10 minutes. It was 24, Wren said. That does not improve your case. Celeste looked at the tin insect in Wren's hands. What is that? A nightlight. My mother made it. Jonah became still. Wren turned the brass key in the base. Inside, a small mechanism clicked. The firefly's wings opened and closed, casting moving stars across the atrium walls. She made toys? Celeste asked. She made things that were supposed to be useful, Wren said. Dad says those are sometimes the same. Jonah glanced at his watch. I need to get the replacement parts. Leave the lift open, Celeste said. It cannot be used until the relay is replaced. I said leave it open, not operational. He looked at her, measuring the sentence. You have another route downstairs. A ramp through the east gallery. Good. Do not let anyone reset the controller. Mr. Mercer? He waited. Have you worked on Arden control systems before? The question changed the air. Wren stopped winding the lamp. Jonah's hand tightened once around the tool case handle. Similar systems, he said. That was not my question. It is the answer I have. He walked toward the door. Celeste watched him leave with the strange certainty that he had lied without saying anything untrue. At 4:48 that afternoon, Jonah returned with the correct relay, an isolation board, and Wren asleep against the truck window beneath a red blanket. Alma offered to carry the child inside. Jonah hesitated. The guest sitting room is warm, Alma said, and I have no intention of stealing her. People with houses this large usually hire others for that. Alma looked at him. A joke, he said. A poor one. Very. He lifted Wren from the truck. She woke enough to wrap her arms around his neck. The firefly lamp remained tucked against her coat. Celeste took her investor call in the library while Jonah repaired the lift. She was negotiating a financing extension for Aster, Arden Motion's autonomous urban transport platform. The launch had been delayed twice. The board wanted a public demonstration in 6 weeks. Celeste wanted another 90 days of closed testing. Graham Pike wanted certainty. Graham had been her father's oldest friend, the first investor in Arden Motion, and the person who had sat beside her hospital bed when her fiancé stopped coming. He chaired the board now. He had called 3 times that morning. The market will not wait because you have developed a philosophical attachment to caution, he said over the speaker. Caution is what people call engineering when they do not understand it. And delay is what engineers call fear when they do not understand markets. Celeste moved to the window. In the courtyard below, Jonah crossed from the truck carrying a coil of cable. Wren walked behind him in boots too large for her, stepping only in his footprints. The remote authority layer is not ready, Celeste said. Priya signed the validation. Priya signed the closed track validation, not municipal deployment. Then ask her to update the language. Language does not change risk. Graham sighed. It was a sound perfected over decades, affectionate enough to make disagreement feel childish. Your father would have known when to stop testing and start leading. My father died before the first prototype moved 10 feet. Exactly. He did not spend his life waiting for permission from failure. The call ended without resolution. Celeste remained at the window. Below, Jonah reached the truck, opened the passenger door, and found Wren holding out the firefly lamp. He bent to wind it for her. The little metal wings flashed in the gray afternoon. A memory arrived, without invitation. A mother at a workbench. Brass shavings on dock sleeves. A toy carousel turning badly because one horse had been mounted backward. Celeste, age 9, insisting the mistake ruined everything. Her mother laughing, then turned the horse around. Celeste closed the curtain. At 7:12, Jonah tested the repaired lift with a weighted equipment cart. He ran it upward and down 3 times, checked the current draw, then stood beside the open door while Celeste rolled. Inside, 1 trip, he said. I watched the controller. I am not a test weight. No test weights complain less. She looked at him. That one was intentional, he said. The lift rose smoothly. At the second floor, the doors opened level. Jonah crouched near the threshold and placed a slim sensor against the rail. Fixed, Celeste said. The lift is fixed. You still think the chair is not? I know it is not. Based on a warm motor. Irregular brake current. And the control handshake I heard when the lift diagnostic scanner passed near it. Celeste's face changed. You heard a control handshake? The scanner logged it. Show me. He opened a graph on the handheld unit. A narrow spike appeared every 12 seconds. Your chair is transmitting a status packet to something outside its local network, he said. It reports diagnostics to Arden, medical support. Not on this band. What band is it using? Jonah did not answer immediately. Mr. Mercer, a legacy industrial band, Halcyon architecture. The name struck something in Celeste's memory. Halcyon Controls had been a supplier on the earliest Aster prototypes. 4 years earlier, a fire destroyed its main test laboratory and killed 3 employees. The company collapsed within months. Arden Motion purchased several of its patents through liquidation. How do you know Halcyon architecture? Jonah unplugged the scanner. I worked there. Doing what? System safety. Your service profile says residential accessibility technician. That is what I do now. That is not what I asked. He looked down the hallway toward the sitting room where Wren slept. I left engineering after the fire. Were you there? Yes. Were you injured? No. The answer carried weight around the word. Celeste noticed the pale scar crossing his left palm. She noticed how carefully he kept his face empty. Who did you lose? She asked. His eyes returned to hers. My wife. The hallway seemed to become quiet and Celeste had read the death list. She remembered no Elise Mercer. But married names changed. Records shortened. The people and public reports were often written to keep grief within approved dimensions. I am sorry, she said. Jonah's expression did not soften. Do not be. You did not cause it. He looked at the diagnostic spike again. Then, very quietly, he added, as far as I know. Celeste heard the sentence. He knew she had heard it. Neither of them moved. From the sitting room, the tin firefly began to click as its spring unwound. Jonah turned off the scanner. The lift is safe, he said. Your chair needs an offline controller installed tonight. You said Arden Medical should inspect it. I changed my mind. Why? Because someone put a Halcyon remote layer in a medical chair without documenting it. That system belongs to my company. Then someone in your company did it. Celeste's hands settled on the armrests. You are making a serious accusation. No, I am describing a serious signal. Accusations come after evidence. And you can find that evidence. He should have said no. She could see him choosing the safer answer and rejecting it. Maybe. How long? A week. I will hire a forensic team. A team from where? Arden Motion. Then whoever installed it gets a week's warning before the team begins. You are suggesting I trust a contractor I met this morning over my own engineers. I am suggesting you do not tell a locked room that you are looking for the person with the key. It was an inelegant sentence. It was also correct. Celeste looked through the open sitting room door. Wren slept, curled beneath the red blanket. The firefly lamp glowed against the carpet, throwing dim points across the ceiling. 6 weeks, Celeste said. Jonah frowned. For what? A temporary position. Adaptive systems audit. You report only to me. You inspect the chair, the house, network, and Aster's access architecture. No, the refusal came so quickly, she thought she had misheard. You have not heard the salary? It does not matter. Everything has a number. Not everything. You need to work? His jaw tightened. You saw my truck and decided you understood my life. I saw the invoice request asking for immediate payment. Then you understand one part. 6 weeks. Triple your current rate. Health coverage beginning tomorrow, including dependents. He said nothing. Celeste continued because silence was leverage when the other person needed what you had. You choose your hours outside critical testing. Your daughter may use the study room after school if necessary. At the end, you return to your business or stay under a permanent contract. Why me? Because you recognize the signal my medical division missed? Because you told me not to trust you? And because, when the lift stopped, you looked at the machine instead of the chair. The last sentence surprised both of them. Jonah looked toward Wren. The firefly's wings opened, closed, and opened again. I have conditions, he said. So do I. No network access under my name, until I approve the logging. No background search beyond employment and criminal records. No one touches my daughter's belongings. Celeste's attention sharpened at the third condition. Why would anyone touch her belongings? Because wealthy people confuse ownership with permission. That is not an answer. It is the one I have. Again, the lie, without false words. Celeste should have withdrawn the offer. Instead, she said, Monday, 7:30. 8. I take Wren to school. 7:45. 8. She held his gaze. 8, she said. Jonah woke Wren, carried the lamp and the tool case to the truck, and drove away through the wet dark. From the second-floor window, Celeste watched the old green truck disappear beyond the gates. Only then did she call Owen Kessler. Run, Jonah Mercer, she said. Owen was quiet for a moment. Employment, civil, criminal, everything. She looked at the diagnostic graph Jonah had left open on the scanner. A thin spike repeated every 12 seconds. And do it without using Arden systems. Owen Kessler's report arrived at 6:11 the next morning. It contained 32 pages, and almost nothing Celeste had not already heard. Jonah Mercer, 38. Licensed accessibility and elevator systems technician. Owner of Riverside Access Systems, a company with one employee and a tax balance paid 3 days late the previous spring. No criminal record, no civil judgments. One daughter, Wren Elise Mercer, age 8. Wife, Elise Navarro Mercer, deceased 4 years earlier in the Halcyon laboratory fire. The older history was thinner. Jonah had earned an engineering degree from Carnegie Mellon at 22. He joined Halcyon Controls immediately after graduation and rose quickly from test analyst to principal safety engineer. Then, 3 months before the fire, his name disappeared from project directories. 6 weeks after the fire, he surrendered his professional engineering license voluntarily. He did not apply elsewhere. He sold the house he had shared with Elise, closed 2 bank accounts, and began an apprenticeship with a small elevator company in McKeesport. There was no public explanation. Owen had written one line at the bottom. Incomplete does not mean harmless. It also does not mean guilty. Celeste read the line twice. Then she deleted the report from her inbox, printed it on the private office printer, and locked the pages inside a drawer. Jonah arrived Monday at 8 exactly. The old truck entered the gates with a new crack in the windshield. Wren sat in the passenger seat, holding a paper bridge made from folded index cards. Jonah carried 2 tool cases, a locked silver laptop, and a cardboard box of equipment that looked older than some of the furniture in the East Hall. Celeste waited in the library with a 6-week contract on the table. You ran the background check, he said before sitting. Of course, using outside systems. As agreed. You discovered I left Halcyon. I discovered you vanished from your profession. That is a dramatic word. It is an accurate one. He read the contract without hurrying. Celeste watched him stop at the non-disclosure section, the network access language, and the provision allowing immediate termination for misrepresentation. This clause lets you seize work product created on my own hardware, he said. Only work related to Arden systems. The phrase related to is doing expensive work. Revise it. He looked up. You want me to revise your contract? You notice the problem? Correct it? He crossed out 2 lines, wrote a narrower definition in the margin, and initialed it. Celeste read the revision. Acceptable, she said. That is almost warm. Do not become dependent on it. He signed. The first 4 days were an argument conducted through machines. Jonah began with the chair. He removed the Arden medical controller and replaced it with an offline unit he had built from commercial parts. The new controls were less elegant. The display was smaller. The casing did not match the frame. Celeste disliked all of it. It looks improvised, she said. It is improvised. My company produces medical control systems used in 12 countries. One of them was transmitting without permission. You enjoy saying that. I enjoy that you are alive to hear it. He said it while tightening a bracket. Without looking up, Celeste had no immediate reply. He mapped every wireless device in Arden House, from the lift controllers to the window sensors to the thermostat in Elma's pantry. He found 3 undocumented access points, 2 left by contractors and 1 hidden behind a wine cellar climate panel. The hidden unit used an old Halcyon protocol. He sealed it inside an evidence bag. Could it have been installed before I bought the Halcyon patents? Celeste asked. The manufacturing stamp is 11 months old. So someone wanted it. Looked old. He built a second network that never touched the internet. He labeled it Harbor in black marker. Why Harbor? Celeste asked. Because safe was already taken by people who did not earn it. That answer stayed with her. At Forge 9, his refusal to be impressed irritated almost everyone. Arden Motion occupied a converted steelworks complex beside the river. The original brick buildings remained, but glass bridges now connected them above courtyards filled with young trees. Prototype vehicles moved silently through test lanes. Engineers worked behind clear walls, because Celeste believed secrecy inside a company usually meant someone was protecting status rather than ideas. Jonah stood in the main atrium on his first day and looked not at the suspended Astra prototype, not at the award cases, and not at the enormous kinetic sculpture turning above reception. He looked at the emergency exits. The west door opens against the evacuation flow, he said. Priya Sen, director of autonomous systems, stared at him. We have passed 3 fire inspections. Fire inspections check code. People in smoke do not read code. You are here to audit adaptive systems. Doors are adaptive systems when someone cannot open them. Priya looked at Celeste. Celeste said, fix the door. Priya did not like Jonah for the next 2 hours. By lunch, she had changed her mind. He found a timing conflict between Astra's obstacle avoidance layer and the kneeling platform used for wheelchair boarding. Under normal conditions, the conflict created a delay of less than half a second. Under emergency braking, it could cause the platform to retract before the passenger was fully clear. The simulation team had marked the event statistically negligible. Jonah asked, how many passengers were an acceptable fraction? No one answered. He did not raise his voice. That made the question worse. Priya pulled the affected build from testing. Where did you learn to read nested control logs like that? She asked. Later. Halcyon. What group? Safety integration. Priya's hand stopped over her keyboard. Black Lantern came from safety integration. The name passed through the room like a cold draft. Black Lantern was the anonymous source who had sent regulators a packet of internal Halcyon warnings 3 days before the laboratory fire. The packet claimed the company's remote authority architecture could be exploited to override a vehicle. Safeguards. Halcyon called the documents incomplete and stolen. After the fire, investigators found no intact server containing the original audit trail. The whistleblower disappeared. Some people believed Black Lantern caused the fire. Others believed the fire was meant to erase Black Lantern. Jonah closed the log window. Halcyon had 86 people in safety integration. It had 12 senior engineers with access to that architecture. Then your suspect list is shorter. Priya studied him. Do you know what happened? I know the official report. That is not what I asked. He gave her the same answer he had given Celeste. It is the one I have. Celeste heard the exchange from the glass meeting room. She pretended not to. At 3:30 each afternoon, Jonah left Forge 9 to collect Wren from school. At 4:15, they returned. The first day, Wren sat in the visitor study with her homework and the firefly lamp. The second day, she discovered a whiteboard outside the design studio and began drawing machines that solved problems no one had assigned. One machine collected lonely socks from dryers. and found their partners. Another lowered grocery shelves when short people approached. A third was a bus seat that unfolded into 3 smaller seats. When children argued, Celeste passed the whiteboard on her way to a board call. "That one violates several laws of geometry," she said. Wren stood back from the drawing. "Only because I have not added the hinges. Hinges do not repeal geometry. Dad says good hinges can repeat almost anything. Your father says many questionable things. He says you do too." Celeste looked through the studio window at Jonah. He was explaining a brake test chart to Priya and did not appear aware that his daughter was destroying his employment prospects. "What else does he say?" Celeste asked. Wren thought carefully. "That you see the wrong thing first and the right thing second." The sentence landed more deeply than Wren could have known. "And what does that mean?" I asked. "He said it means you get there." Wren returned to the drawing. Celeste continued to the board call. She did not tell Jonah about the conversation. On the 6th day, Graham Pike came to Forge 9. He arrived without notice, which was how powerful men reminded buildings they belonged to them. His driver stopped at the executive entrance. 2 assistants followed him through security. He wore a navy coat, silver cufflinks, and the expression of someone arriving to repair a problem other people had made emotional. Graham had known Celeste all her life. When she was 6, he taught her how to calculate interest at the dinner table. When she was 16, he advised her father not to punish her for taking apart the family car's navigation system. When she started Arden Motion in a rented warehouse, he wrote the first check and told every skeptical investor that she would either transform, transport, or become impossible to live with trying. After the crash, he sat beside her bed for 19 nights. He also took control of the board while she was still unable to lift the glass. Both things were true. He entered her office without knocking and kissed her forehead. Celeste moved back half an inch. "You look tired," he said. "You look uninvited. I brought good news. The municipal demonstration permit is approved for the 12th. I did not authorize the application. The board did. The board does not operate prototypes. It does operate the company." Graham placed a leather folder on her desk. "Aster launches in 5 weeks. Investors are attending. The mayor is attending. We cannot delay again. The remote authority layer failed an access audit yesterday. A contractor's access audit. An engineer's, a former engineer." Celeste's gaze sharpened. "You know about Jonah Mercer?" Owen's security flag crossed the governance desk. Owen was told to keep the search outside Arden Systems, which he did. The flag came from his request for temporary credentials. Graham sat across from her. "Celeste, Halcyon was not an ordinary supplier. 3 people died. Federal investigators spent 2 years sorting through accusations, stolen code, and industrial sabotage, bringing one of their senior safety engineers into Aster without board review is reckless. He found an undocumented Halcyon transmitter inside my chair." For the first time, Graham's expression changed. It was not fear. It was a pulse before the correct emotion arrived. "Inside your chair. Do not perform surprise for me. I am not performing anything. Who installed it? That is what he's finding out." Graham stood and moved to the window. "Remove him from the campus." "No. At least suspend his network access. He has almost none." "Then why is he here?" "Because almost none is more than I currently trust the board with." The words were out before Celeste decided to say them. Graham turned. Hurt appeared in his face with such skill that she hated herself for wondering whether it was real. "I kept this company alive while you learned how to live again," he said. "You kept your voting control alive. Those are not separate things. That is the problem." The silence between them contained her father, the hospital, every board vote she had lost, and every time Graham had called control and protection. He closed the folder. "Aster launches on the 12th, he said. "Do not let a grieving technician turn your fear into policy." He left. Celeste remained by the window. On the test floor below, Ona stood beside an Aster cabin with Wren on his shoulders so she could look into an overhead sensor housing. Priya held the ladder they had chosen not to use. Wren pointed at something. Celeste could not hear it through the glass. She could see the shape of it. That afternoon, she told Jonah his credentials had been restricted by the board. Expect that, he said. You do not seem concerned? Concern is not access. Can you continue? Yes, slower. I dislike slower. I have noticed. He rolled a portable diagnostic cart beside her chair. Today, we test motor response offline. You have tested it 4 times. Today, we test under load. He attached vibration sensors to the frame and placed a pressure mat beneath the footplate. I need you to drive the marked route, he said. The route crossed the empty calibration hall, climbed a shallow ramp, turned through a narrow gate, and stopped on a rotating platform used to test vehicle alignment. Celeste completed it once. Again, Jonah said. She completed it a second time. On the third pass, the right motor hesitated at the top of the ramp. A low vibration moved through the footplate. Celeste felt something in her right foot. Not movement. Not exactly sensation. Pressure, perhaps. A deep awareness below the ankle, there and gone. Her hand stopped on the control. Jonah saw her face. What? Nothing. That was not nothing. The motor hesitated. I know what the motor did. What did you feel? A vibration. Where? In the frame. He looked at her right foot. Celeste's voice cooled. Do not what? Turn a machine test into a medical theory. I asked the location, and I answered. He removed the pressure sensor without argument. That irritated her more than insistence would have. You think I am lying, she said. I think people protect themselves with accurate sentences. You would know. The words struck. Jonah's face became still. Yes, he said. He packed the sensors. Celeste regretted the sentence, but not enough to apologize immediately. Apologies felt dangerous when the other person had not asked for one. Later, she found him in the loading bay, repairing Wren's firefly lamp. One wing had stopped opening. Wren sat cross-legged on a workbench, watching with the solemn attention of an apprentice. The pin bent, Jonah explained. Metal remembers pressure. You can force it back, but if you do it too fast, it breaks at the crease. Can you fix it? Wren asked. I can help it move again. The crease stays. That is still fixing. Jonah smiled. Fair. Celeste stopped in the doorway. The sentence about metal, remembering pressure, seemed too deliberate. Though he had not known she was listening, Wren noticed her. Miss Arden, did you know metal remembers? Some alloys do. Dad says people do too. Jonah looked up. Dad was discussing hinges. You were discussing everything. That is a serious accusation. Wren held out the lamp. Do you want to see inside? Jonah's hand closed around the base. Too quickly. There is nothing interesting inside, he said. Celeste saw it. The fear. This time there was no question. Wren frowned. There are gears. Miss Arden has seen gears. Not these. Mom made them. Jonah turned the lamp over and tightened the base plate with a small screwdriver. Another time, he said. Celeste said nothing, but that night, she opened Owen's report again and read the section on the fire. Elise Navarro Mercer had been a controls architect at Halcyon. She was 34. The official cause of the laboratory fire was a battery containment failure during an unauthorized overnight test. Security logs placed Elise inside Lab 4 at 11:52 p.m. Jonah's badge was recorded at the East Gate 9 minutes later. Though camera footage from that entrance had been corrupted, a handwritten note had been recovered from Elise's locker. Not a confession, not a warning. 3 words. Keep the light. Celeste looked toward the dark hallway beyond her office. CE. In her memory, the tin firefly opened its wings. The next week settled into a rhythm neither Celeste nor Jonah acknowledged. He arrived at 8. She had already been working for 2 hours. He inspected a system, found a flaw, and told someone who did not want to hear it. She decided whether the flaw was real. It usually was. At noon, Alma sent food to the calibration room because Jonah forgot to leave. At 3:30, he collected Wren. At 4:15, the atmosphere at Forge 9 changed. Wren did not behave as if the company were important. She behaved as if it were full of useful parts. She learned which engineers allowed her to use the safe tools, and which ones became nervous when she stood near expensive equipment. She made a paper badge reading, Junior Problem Finder. Priya laminated it. Celeste objected. There is no junior problem finder position. There is now, Wren said. You cannot create a role by writing it on paper. That is how Dad made his company. Jonah, standing behind her, said, She is simplifying several legal steps. Celeste looked at the badge. Probationary, she said. Wren nodded. That means I get another chance when I make mistakes. The answer moved through the adults more quietly than she intended. Celeste gave her access to the design library. On the 10th day, Jonah found the second remote authority signature inside an Astra prototype. It was buried beneath 3 layers of ordinary maintenance traffic. The command itself was dormant. Its structure matched the packet transmitted by Celeste's chair. He printed the hexadecimal sequence and laid it beside the chair log. The lines were identical. Could the chair have received code from the vehicle program? Celeste asked. Not through any legitimate process. Then both were modified by the same person, or the same tool. Can you trace it? The signature points to a root certificate. The certificate points to a Halcyon archive Arden acquired after the fire. Where is the archive? Priya answered from the opposite side of the table. Cold storage under Forge 3. Physical access only. Who has access? Celeste asked. Priya checked the registry. You Graham, Owen, Me Too infrastructure administrators. And who accessed it in the last year? Priya's face tightened. The log is empty. Jonah leaned back. An empty log is a log someone cleaned. Celeste looked at him. You have said that before? Different room, same problem. They went to Forge 3 after midnight because Celeste did not want the board's security monitor seeing a scheduled access. Owen met them at the lower entrance. He was 45, broad-shouldered, and economical with language. He had served as Celeste's security chief since the first credible threat against her company. Jonah did not trust him. Owen did not pretend not to notice. No phones beyond this point, Owen said. Jonah handed over an old flip phone. Owen looked at it. Is that a joke? It makes calls. Sometimes, when it respects the number. Celeste surrendered her phone. The cold archive occupied a reinforced room beneath the former mill floor. Rows of sealed cabinets held physical drives, obsolete controllers, patent prototypes, and records no one needed until someone needed them desperately. The Halcyon material filled 3 cabinets. Priya opened the first. Inside were drives, labeled by project, date, and legal status. Most remained in evidence, sleeves from the bankruptcy acquisition. Jonah moved slowly along the shelves. He read every label. At cabinet 2, his breathing changed. Celeste noticed. What? This shelf is wrong. Priya checked the inventory. It matches the list. The list was rewritten. How do you know? Jonah pointed to the sequence numbers. Halcyon used even numbers for hardware builds and odd numbers for software snapshots. This run has 6 consecutive even numbers. Someone relabeled at least 3 drives. Priya removed one evidence sleeve. The seal had been cut and replaced. Owen swore quietly. Celeste looked at Jonah. What should be here? He stared at the empty meaning between the labels. Lantern audit snapshots. No one spoke. Priya turned toward him. How do you know the internal name of the audit? Jonah's gaze remained on the shelf. Because I worked on it. Black Lantern was not the source's name. Priya said. It was the audit name. The press got it backward. That detail was never public. Owen shifted his weight. Celeste heard the quiet movement and understood it as a decision approaching. Jonah, she said. He looked at her. There was no useful lie left. I wrote the first Lantern report, he said. Priya stepped back. Owen's hand moved near his jacket, not to a weapon, but close enough to procedure. Celeste kept her voice level. Were you the source? Not alone. Were you Black Lantern? The name belonged to the work. That was not my question. His face held grief, fear, and the exhaustion of someone reaching a door he had spent years avoiding. Yes, he said. The archive room became very cold. Celeste thought of the fire, the warnings, the stolen code. She thought of the transmitter in her chair and the sentence Jonah had spoken in the hallway. As far as I know, why did you come here? She asked. You hired me. Why did you accept? Because I saw Halcyon architecture in your chair. So you entered my company under a limited background record and concealed that you were the whistleblower connected to its most controversial acquisition. Yes. Do you possess Arden code? No. Halcyon code. He did not answer. Owen moved one step closer. Celeste lifted a hand. Do you possess Halcyon code? I possess evidence. Where I can. Somewhere no one at Arden can reach. Your house? No. On your daughter? His expression changed. Only for a second. It was enough. Celeste saw the tin firefly on the loading bay bench, Jonah's hand closing around its base. Elise's note. Keep the light. You put it inside her lamp? Celeste said. Jonah went pale. Owen's eyes hardened. You used a child's toy to hide stolen data. It is not stolen. Elise built the encryption core. She put it there before the fire. I did not know until afterward. And you have carried it with your daughter for 4 years. I carried the lamp. She started taking it after her mother died. I never opened the core on a connected system. That is not protection, Celeste said. That is proximity to danger. I know. Then why keep it? His voice dropped. Because everyone who received a copy disappeared, recanted, or died. The answer ended the argument. Not the anger. The argument. Celeste turned toward the sealed drives. What is in the evidence? The complete remote authority audit. Override commands, test failures, executive approvals, deleted messages. It proves Halcyon knew the system could seize control from a local operator who authorized the release. That is encrypted behind a second key. Elise held it. And now, the key is in the Firefly core. Priya said. If that is true, it could identify who rebuilt the layer inside Aster. Jonah looked at Celeste. It could identify more than that. What? Before he answered, a red light appeared above the archive door. Owen turned. We have a security lock. The door sealed with a heavy mechanical sound. Priya checked the wall panel. It says contamination event. There is no contamination sensor in this room, Owen said. The ventilation stopped. Then the lights went out. Emergency strips came on along the floor. Jonah was already moving. Manual release. Owen pointed to a panel beside the outer frame. Mechanical. Other side. Cameras. Internal circuit. Then someone knows we are here. Celeste's chair controls blinked. The offline unit should not have blinked. Jonah saw it. Turn the chair off. It is offline. Turn it off. Celeste pulled the power switch. The display went dark. A second later, the chair rolled backward. The motor engaged without the controller. Owen caught the frame. Jonah dropped to the floor and tore open the battery compartment. There is a secondary receiver, he said. Inside the power regulator. Can you stop it? Celeste asked. Yes. He pulled the main disconnect. The chair went dead. The emergency lights flickered. In the darkness, Celeste heard her own breathing. She hated that sound. It returned her to the wrecked vehicle, to rain ticking against broken glass, to the smell of antifreeze and burned wiring. Her body had been trapped beneath the dash. The autonomous system kept repeating route correction, unavailable, while the rear motor pushed against a concrete barrier. Someone had reached through the shattered door and turned off the power. She had never known who. Jonah's hand touched the chair frame. Not her. You are safe, he said. Do not say things you cannot know. You are safe for this minute. That was accurate enough to accept. Owen forced open a maintenance panel in the wall and found the hard line to security. The cable had been cut. Priya used a drive handle as a lever against the internal door seam. It did nothing. Jonah examined the floor. Old mill tunnel. Owen looked at him. How would you know? Buildings this age never trust one door. He found a bolted plate beneath a rolling cabinet. The plate covered a narrow service tunnel used when the mill's electrical lines ran below the floor. Owen removed the bolts. The tunnel was 30 inches high and black beyond the first few feet. It reaches the substation corridor, he said. How far? Priya asked. Maybe 60 yards. Jonah looked at Celeste's dead chair. The tunnel could not take it. Celeste understood before anyone spoke. Go, she said. Owen shook his head. No, one of you reaches the corridor, opens the door, returns with a transport chair. We do not split. Then we remain in a sealed room for the person outside to solve. At leisure, Jonah looked into the tunnel. I go. You are the least trusted person here, Owen said, which means if I do not come back, you lose less. He took a small flashlight from his case. Celeste caught his sleeve before he lowered himself through the opening. The evidence, she said. If someone is doing this because you told us, Wren is exposed. His eyes met hers. For the first time, she saw not the careful technician or the former engineer. She saw a father who had just understood that the hiding place he trusted was also the person he could not bear to lose. She's at Arden House with Alma, he said. My house network was compromised. He closed his eyes. Then he entered the tunnel. The next 11 minutes lasted longer than the 2 years Celeste had spent learning patience against her will. Priya tried the panel every 30 seconds. Owen stood beside the dead chair with one hand on the frame. Celeste counted the emergency lights as they dimmed. At 7 minutes, a scraping sound moved beneath the floor. At 9, someone struck metal twice. At 11, the archive door released. Jonah stood outside, covered in dust and blood from a cut above his eyebrow. Behind him were 2 Forge 9 security officers with an evacuation chair. The house line is not answering, he said. Celeste transferred into the emergency chair without waiting for assistance she did not need. Owen pushed fast through the corridor. Priya called Alma from a secure desk phone as soon as they reached the upper level. No answer. Jonah was already running toward the exit. Celeste stopped him with one sentence. My car. He turned. Owen objected. Celeste ignored him. 8 minutes later, they were crossing the river in an armored Arden sedan with Owen driving, Jonah in the front passenger seat, Celeste behind him, in the emergency chair locked to the floor. Snow had begun again. Jonah called Alma every 30 seconds. On the 6th attempt, she answered. We are fine, Alma said, breathless. The power failed. The gates closed. Wren is with me in the pantry because he said it has no windows. Jonah bent forward until his forehead touched his hand. Celeste looked away. Is the lamp with her? He asked. There was a pause. Yes. Do not open it. Do not let anyone take it. Jonah, someone is at the east door. Owen accelerated. Who? Celeste asked. A man in an Arden service coat. He says the network sent an emergency call. Do not open the door, Celeste said. Go to the safe room. Take Wren, lock it. Alma did not ask why. The line went dead. They reached Arden House in 14 minutes. The east service door stood open. Owen entered first. Jonah followed, despite being told not to. Celeste remained in the car for exactly 20 seconds, then released the chair lock and moved toward the ramp herself. The hallway lights were out. A toolbox lay open near the pantry. It carried the Arden medical emblem. No technician stood beside it. Owen found a cut cable behind the alarm panel. Jonah found wet boot prints, leading toward the safe room. The safe room door was intact. He knocked 3 times, paused, then twice. Dad! Wren's voice came through the intercom. His shoulders dropped. It is me. Open for Alma only. The lock released. Wren ran out and hit him at the waist. He caught her, lifted her, and held on with both arms. The firefly lamp hung from its leather strap against her back. Celeste entered the hall in the emergency chair. Wren saw the blood above Jonah's eyebrow. You are broken. A little. Did you fall? I crawled badly. That is still falling, just sideways. He laughed once. It sounded close to pain. Alma came out behind her. The man left when the gate alarm restarted. I heard a vehicle on the east drive. Owen sent security teams around the grounds. They found tire tracks, a discarded service coat, and no person. In the library, Jonah set the firefly lamp on the table. Everyone looked at it. Wren put both hands around the base. Why does everyone want Mom's light? She asked. No adult answered quickly enough. She looked at Jonah. Is this why you always say not to lose it? He knelt in front of her. Partly. Is there a secret inside? Yes. A bad one. A dangerous one. Are we in trouble? Jonas swallowed. I should have told you more. That is not an answer. Celeste recognized the sentence. Jonah did too. We may be in trouble, he said. But you did nothing wrong. Wren considered that. Did Mom? No. Did you? His eyes closed for a moment. I waited too long to trust someone. Wren looked at Celeste. Can he trust you? Celeste had negotiated with governments, lenders, and men who believed direct eye contact was a substitute for honesty. No question had ever felt more binding. I do not know yet, she said. Wren nodded. That is more true than yes. She lifted the lamp and placed it in Celeste's lap. Jonah stood immediately. Wren. If the bad person thinks Dad has it, they will keep chasing him. If Ms. Arden has it, they might not know. That is not your decision. It is Mom's lamp. She gave it to me. Jonah's face tightened around grief. Wren's voice became smaller. And I do not want our house to burn. The room went still. Celeste rested one hand on the dented metal wings. It stays in a physical safe, she said. No network. Owen controls the room. Alma controls the second key. And no one opens it without all of us present. Jonah looked at her. You still do not trust me, he said. No. But you want the evidence. Yes. That is not enough. It is enough for tonight. He looked at Wren, at the blood on his sleeve, at the open service door where a stranger had entered wearing Celeste's company emblem. Then he nodded. They locked the firefly lamp inside the old wine vault beneath Arden House. It had no wireless systems, no electronic lock, and walls built before remote access existed. Celeste took one key. Alma took the other. Jonah watched the steel door close. At 1:30 in the morning, Owen drove Priya back to Forge 9 to isolate the arch, and identify who had triggered the false contamination lock. Alma put Wren to sleep in the blue guest room. Jonah sat at the kitchen table, while Celeste's private physician closed the cut above his eye with 3 narrow strips. You need stitches, the physician said. I need a clean bandage. You need both. Celeste watched from the doorway. Jonah noticed her after the physician left. Are you going to fire me? I have not decided. You decide quickly. Usually, what is different? I am deciding whether you concealed the truth to protect your daughter or used my company to finish a private war. Both can be true. That is not helpful. Truth rarely arrives organized for the person receiving it. She rolled farther into the kitchen. Did your evidence cause the Halcyon fire? No. Did your actions contribute to it? He looked at the table. Yes. Celeste waited. Jonah spoke slowly. The lantern audit found a hidden authority path in the vehicle controller. It was supposed to let a remote operations center stop a vehicle during emergencies, but someone expanded it? Full steering, acceleration, door locks, battery isolation, everything. Elise found executive test files showing the path had been used without driver. I wrote a stop work order. Halcyon executives buried it. So you leaked it. Elise and I sent a limited packet to regulators, enough to force an inspection. We kept the full archive as protection. Why limited? Because the full archive contained customer systems, including Arden prototypes. Releasing it publicly could have created the exact threat we were trying to stop. And the fire? His hands closed. We scheduled a meeting with a federal investigator. Elise went back to the lab to retrieve the encryption key. I was supposed to meet her there. Wren had a fever. I stayed until the neighbor arrived. By the time I reached the gate, Lab 4 was burning. He looked toward the hallway, where Wren slept. The report called it an unauthorized battery test. There was no test. Someone overloaded the containment pack remotely and sealed the lab doors. Elise got 2 technicians out through a maintenance hatch. She did not get out. Celeste felt cold beneath her ribs. You can prove that. The Firefly core can. Then why did you not open it? The archive requires 2 factors. The physical key in the lamp and a living root certificate from the authority system. Halcyon destroyed theirs. I thought the evidence had become unreadable. Until you saw the signal in my chair. Yes, whoever rebuilt the authority layer created a living root. Your chair carries it, Astor carries it. Celeste understood the shape of the trap. Someone used my company to resurrect the system. Yes. And put it inside the chair I depend on. Yes. Why? Jonah met her eyes. To prove they still could. Or to use it when they needed to. The chair seemed to become heavier beneath her. She remembered the crash again. The vehicle refusing local commands. The rear motor pushing after impact. The official explanation had blamed damaged sensors and rain. My accident, she said. Jonah did not move. Could that system have caused it? I do not know. You have considered it. From the moment I saw the transmitter, and you said nothing. I had no evidence. You had a dangerous theory about the event that changed every part of my life. A theory is not a gift when it cannot be tested. You did not have the right to decide what I could bear. No. The agreement stopped her anger more effectively than defense would have. I am sorry, he said. Not because you need pity. Because I made a decision that belonged partly to you. Celeste looked at the bandage above his eye. You do that often. Protect people without permission. Cool, control protection. He absorbed the sentence. I learned from expensive teachers. For a moment, Graham's face appeared in her mind. She pushed it away. You remain through the audit, she said. ID. Jonah looked surprised. Under Owen's supervision, you disclose every Halcyon connection. You do not access the lamp alone. You do not lie by narrowing your sentences. That last condition is broad. It is meant to be. And after the audit, if you used me, I will destroy your life legally. Clear. If you did not, I will decide what comes after. He nodded. Celeste turned toward the door. Why did Elise Wright keep the light? She asked. Jonah's face changed. Because Wren was afraid of the dark? Elise built the lamp when she was 3. After the fire, I found the note in her locker. I thought she meant our daughter. And now, he looked toward the wine vault stairs. Now I think she meant both. The 17th day began before dawn. Priya called at 5:20 with news from Forge 9. The false contamination lock had been triggered using a board-level maintenance certificate. Only 3 active identities could generate it. Celeste, Graham, and the corporate governance server. Celeste's identity had not been used. Graham's showed no login. The governance server recorded a routine update at the exact time of the attack. Someone used the server as a mask, Priya said. I need the lantern key to trace the root chain. Celeste looked across the breakfast room at Jonah. Wren was asleep on a sofa, beneath Alma's knitted blanket. The firefly remained locked below them. Tonight, Celeste said, after the campus empties. Jonah's shoulders tightened. The longer we wait, the more time they have to clean the system. The board meets at noon. Graham will be present. If he is involved, I want him visible while Priya isolates the network. You think Graham did this? I think belief is a poor substitute for evidence. That sounds familiar. Do not enjoy it. At noon, Graham entered the boardroom carrying coffee for Celeste, exactly the way she took it. He placed it beside her without asking. You look worse, he said. The concern is touching. It is not concern. It is observation. Around the table, 11 directors opened tablets and avoided the tension between them. The Astra launch occupied the first agenda item. Graham moved approval before Celeste finished the safety update. The audit is compromised, she said, by the former Halcyon engineer you brought inside it, by undocumented authority code inside our vehicles. Graham looked around the table. Code inherited through a lawful patent acquisition. Activated code. According to Mr. Mercer. According to logs Priya Sen validated. Priya appeared on the screen from the secure lab. The signatures are real. Graham's expression remained calm. Can they affect vehicle operation? We have not proven that, Priya said. Then we're discussing a theoretical vulnerability 5 weeks before a launch. Investors have funded for 7 years. Celeste looked at him. A theoretical vulnerability locked 4 people inside a sealed archive and took control of my chair last night. The boardroom went silent. Graham's face changed with perfect shock. This time, Celeste knew it was performance, not because the emotion looked false, because it arrived too complete. Why was I not told? He asked. You just were. Security should have contacted me immediately. Security reports to me. Security reports to the company. There is no difference unless the board has created one. Brown leaned back. Suspend the launch for 48 hours, he said. Independent review. Remove Mercer from campus and secure all materials he brought into Arden property. It was the reasonable answer. That made Celeste more certain. No, she said. Celeste, the launch remains suspended indefinitely. Mercer remains under my authority. No one touches his property or his daughter. One director shifted. Another looked at Graham. He closed his folder. You are allowing personal fear to govern a public company. I am allowing attempted murder to affect scheduling. The words shocked the room. Dr. Aham did not blink. That is an accusation. No, Celeste said. It is a serious signal. Accusations come after evidence. She ended the meeting. At 9:40 that night, Forge 9 was nearly empty. Priya prepared an isolated workstation in the executive conference room on the 31st floor. Owen locked the elevators and placed 2 security officers at the stairwells. Alma brought Wren, because Jonah refused to leave her at Arden House. After the intrusion, Wren spread homework across one end of the long conference table. The tin firefly sat beside her pencil case. We open it once, Jonah said. No network until the root handshake is captured. Priya nodded. The workstation is air-gapped. Nothing is air-gapped when a radio is inside the room. They surrendered phones, watches, and wireless badges to Owen. Celeste watched Jonah remove the firefly's baseplate. His hands shook, not visibly enough for anyone who did not know machines. Celeste had watched him place screws into exact rows for 17 days. The third screw rolled half an inch before he caught it. Inside the lamp, beneath the wind-up mechanism, lay a ceramic capsule no larger than a coin. Elise had sealed it with blue resin. Jonah touched the resin with his thumb. Wren leaned against his arm. Mom made that. Yes. Did she know we would open it? I think she hoped we would not have to. He fitted the capsule into an offline reader. The workstation screen remained blank for 3 seconds. Then a line appeared. Lantern root present. Priya connected a shielded cable from Celeste's chair regulator to the reader. A second line appeared. Living authority certificate detected. Jonah entered a phrase. The system requested a second phrase. He looked at Wren. Your mother used to sing something when the lamp turned on. Wren frowned. The star song? The first line. She whispered it to him. Jonah typed. The archive opened. Folders filled the screen. Test videos. Command logs. Executive messages. Override maps. A list of customer systems migrated after the Halcyon collapse. Arden Motion appeared at the top. Priya opened the most recent access chain. The chair regulator logged a remote command from the governance server at 2:13 the previous morning. The archive lock logged the same route. Then another record appeared. 26 months earlier. Celeste's vehicle identification number. Rain protocol override. Local brake disabled. Rear motor authority maintained after collision. The room narrowed around the screen. Celeste did not hear Priya breathe in. She did not hear Owen step closer. She saw only the date, the vehicle number, and a command signed with a board maintenance certificate. Her crash had not been an accident. Jonah looked at her. Celeste. She hated the softness in his voice because it made the truth harder to hold. Open the signer, she said. Priya did. The certificate identity resolved through 3 old corporate shells and a legal trust. At the end of the chain was a name. Graham Pike. No one spoke. Wren did not understand the screen, but she understood the adults. She reached for the firefly lamp. At that moment, the conference room doors locked. Celeste's chair moved. The scene that would later return to her in fragments happened very quickly. The chair turned toward the glass wall. She hit stop. Nothing. She pulled the emergency paddle. The motors accelerated. Jonah ran. He caught the rear frame. dragged the chair sideways, cut the control wires, and stopped it 3 feet before the glass. When the motor died, the only sound was Wren crying, without making noise. Jonah picked up the firefly lamp from the carpet and placed it on the table. Then he looked at Celeste. That was not a malfunction. This time, she knew exactly what he meant. Owen reached the conference room panel and found it dark. Manual release is outside, he said. Again, Priya whispered. Jonah looked at the glass wall, then at the ceiling. The doors are not the target. The data is. On the workstation, folder names began disappearing. One row at a time, Priya lunged for the reader. The root is issuing a wipe command. Jonah crossed the room and pulled the shielded cable from Celeste's chair regulator. The deletion continued. It cached authority, he said. Kill the workstation. Priya reached for the power switch. Not graceful shutdown. Power. Owen tore the plug from the wall. The screen went black. The firefly core remained inside the reader. Jonah removed it with both hands. A faint line of heat crossed the ceramic surface. Did it copy? Celeste asked. Priya held up a small solid-state drive. Partial image, logs, certificates, crash record. I do not know how much of the message archive. Enough to prove Graham did it. Enough to prove his certificate did it. Not yet enough to prove he was the person using it. Celeste looked at the dead chair beneath her. He sat beside my hospital bed. No one answered. The sentence had not been a question. Jonah knelt by the firefly lamp and fitted the ceramic core back beneath the wind-up mechanism. Wren stood beside him, arms folded tightly across her chest. Is that man the bad person? She asked. Jonah paused. We think he did something terrible. The man who brought Miss Arden coffee. Celeste looked at her. Wren's face held the confusion of a child discovering that danger did not always arrive. Looking dangerous. Yes, Celeste said. The man with the coffee. The built-in alarm began to sound. Not a fire alarm. A security tone. 3 slow pulses. Repeated. Owen listened. Executive containment. Meaning, Jonah asked. Someone declared an internal cyber attack. All secured floors isolate. Security responds to the named threat. Who can declare it? Owen looked at Celeste. The board chair. The public address system clicked. A calm recorded voice instructed everyone on the executive floor to remain in place. Then a second voice replaced it. Grimes, Celeste, do not make this worse. His tone was gentle, almost paternal. Mr. Mercer has used stolen credentials to breach protected company archives. He is armed with restricted hardware and has placed a child inside an active security incident. Step away from him. Owen, follow containment protocol. Jonah looked at Owen. Owen removed his sidearm, placed it on the floor, and kicked it beneath the conference table. Protocol adjusted, he said. Graham continued through the speaker. The police are on their way. The board has authorized emergency control. Celeste, I am trying to protect you. Celeste felt something inside her become very still. For years, Graham had used that sentence to close every door he did not want her to open. She moved the dead chair by pushing against the wheels with both hands. I am tired of being protected by men who require me to know less than they do, she said. The speaker offered no reply. Owen used a steel table leg to break the manual latch housing. Priya pried the door far enough for Jonah to reach the release cable. The lock opened. They moved through the service stairwell because the elevators were sealed. Celeste used the emergency evacuation chair, a narrow device with tracked belts for stairs. She hated it. She accepted it. Those were separate facts. Jonah carried the firefly lamp inside Wren's backpack. Priya kept the partial drive beneath her shirt. Owen led them down 31 floors while security teams moved upward through the main stairwell. At the 24th floor, Wren whispered, Dad, the light is hot. Jonah stopped. He opened the backpack. Smoke rose from the firefly's base. The wipe command had overheated the ceramic core. He pulled the lamp out and burned his fingers. The metal wings snapped open. One small bulb flashed white, then died. Put it down, Owen said. Jonah set it on the concrete landing. A thin crack ran across the blue resin beneath the base plate. Wren made a sound like someone had struck her. Mom's light. Jonah crouched. D. Oh, not touch it. Can you fix it? He stared at the crack. For once, he did not tell her he could. I do not know. Wren began to cry. Celeste reached from the evacuation chair and took Wren's hand. Wren held on. They left the lamp on the landing because the core might ignite. Jonah looked back twice before the stairwell turned. At the 12th floor, they met police officers coming up. Owen raised both empty hands. Security Chief Owen Kessler. No active weapon. We have a wheelchair user and a child. The officers ordered everyone against the wall. Graham's cyber attack report named Jonah as a former Halcyon saboteur who had breached the building with stolen hardware. It included a warrant request prepared before the conference room lock engaged. Prepared before, Celeste understood the timing immediately. The report is false, she said. I am the chief executive of this company. One officer looked at his tablet. The board has placed you on temporary medical leave. The words were polite. They were still a seizure of power. Jonah was handcuffed. Wren screamed when the officer took his arm. He did not do anything. Jonah turned toward her. Wren, look at me. She could not stop crying. Look at me. She did. Go with Alma when she comes. Stay with Ms. Arden. Do exactly what Owen says. They are taking you. I know. Make them stop. His face broke for half a second. Then he became steady for her. I cannot make them stop right now. I can tell the truth. I can wait, and I can come back. Promise. Jonah looked at the officers, the locked stairwell, and Celeste. He did not promise things he could not control. I will do everything I can. The officers led him downward. Wren twisted free of Celeste's hand and ran 3 steps after him before Owen caught her. Her voice followed Jonah down the stairwell. You forgot the light. He closed his eyes but did not turn around. By dawn, every major business outlet carried the same story. Former Halcyon engineer arrested in Arden Motion cyber attack. CEO Celeste Arden placed on medical leave. Aster launch security breach raises questions. Graham appeared before cameras at 8:15. He stood in the Forge 9 atrium beneath the suspended prototype and spoke with measured sorrow. Our first responsibility is safety. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement. Ms. Arden is receiving the care and rest she needs after an extremely distressing incident. Celeste watched from the library at Arden House. Her replacement chair was manual. Owen had ordered every powered system removed from the house. The television volume was low. Wren sat on the floor with her knees pulled against her chest. He is lying, Wren said. Yes. Why do people believe him? Because he is calm. Because he is known. Because the truth has not arrived with documents yet. We had documents? Priya stood near the window, pale from lack of sleep. The police seized the partial drive, she said. Graham's lawyers claim it contains proprietary code stolen by Jonah. I made a checksum before they took it, but I do not have another copy. The archive? Celeste asked. Wiped physical Halcyon. Drives removed from Forge 3, under board authority. Owen entered with a phone in his hand. His face told them the next news before he spoke. Jonah's house burned at 6:40. Wren stood. Our house? The fire department says no one was inside. My room? Owen did not answer quickly enough. Wren ran toward the front hall. Celeste moved after her, but the manual chair caught on the edge of the rug. Alma reached Wren first and held her while she fought with the strength of grief too large for her body. My mom's things are there. My drawings are there. Dad's books are there. Alma said nothing false. She held on. Celeste looked at the television. Graham was still speaking about safety. The fire report later called the cause electrical. Jonah's landlord said the wiring had passed inspection 2 months earlier. A neighbor saw a white service van leave the alley 10 minutes before smoke appeared. The camera above the laundromat across the street had been disabled. Nothing proved, Graham ordered it. Everything carried his shape. Jonah spent 36 hours in county custody. The cybercrime warrant was broad. Investigators searched his business storage unit, his truck, his accounts, and every device registered to his name. They found no stolen Arden code because he had none. They found old Halcyon notebooks, safety diagrams, and copies of letters he had sent regulators after Elise died. Graham's lawyers called them evidence of obsession. The prosecutor declined immediate charges on the cyber attack, but a federal review remained open. Jonah was released with his professional equipment held as evidence and an order not to enter Arden Motion property. He came to Arden House after dark in borrowed clothes. Wren ran to him before Alma fully opened the door. He dropped to one knee and held her. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Wren pulled back. "Our house is gone. I know, and Mom's blue cup was there. I know, and the marks on the kitchen wall. Every birthday." Elise and Jonah had measured Wren against the doorframe. Jonah had continued after the fire. He put one hand behind Wren's head. "I know. You said you would keep us safe." The sentence entered him without defense. "I tried. That did not work." "No." Wren began crying again. Quieter this time. Jonah carried her to the sofa and sat with her until she fell asleep against him. Celeste waited in the doorway. He looked older than he had 2 days earlier. A bruise darkened one wrist where the cuff had pressed. His burned fingers were bandaged. "The lamp?" he asked. Owen had sent a private team into the stairwell after the police cleared Forge 9. They found the tin firefly where it had been left. The heat had warped the base. The ceramic core was split into 2 pieces. The wind-up mechanism no longer moved. Celeste nodded toward the table. The lamp lay inside a clear evidence box. Jonah crossed the room and stood over it. He did not touch the box. "Priya thinks the core is unreadable," Celeste said. "She is probably right. The partial drive exists in police custody under a theft claim. We can subpoena it. Graham will launch Aster before a court hears us. Then we stop the launch another way." Jonah looked at her. "You do not control the company. I founded it. That was not my point." The words were not cruel. They were worse because they were true. Celeste moved into the library. The board vote was unlawful. "My medical leave requires 2 independent physicians. They used one company doctor and an unsigned opinion from a specialist I have not seen in a year. They will correct the paperwork. Then we move before they do." Jonah's eyes went to Wren sleeping on the sofa. "No." Celeste stopped. "No. I am done bringing danger to her door. The danger was already inside my company, and I carried the key into your house. You also carried the only evidence that could expose it. Evidence that is broken. A house that is burned. A child who asks why I failed to keep her safe. Graham wants you afraid enough to disappear. He does not have to work hard." Jonah's voice remained low, but the control in it was fraying. "I told myself keeping the archives secret protected Wren. I told myself leaving engineering protected her. I told myself taking your job for 6 weeks was acceptable because I could watch the system before anyone knew who I was. Every decision sounded responsible when I made it, and everyone moved her closer to the thing I feared." Celeste felt anger rise because his fear resembled her own too closely. "So you leave?" "Yes. That is your answer to everything." "It is my answer to this. You entered my company knowing my crash might have been caused by the system that killed your wife. You concealed evidence. You allowed me to trust you in pieces. And now that I know the truth, you decide leaving is protection. I am not asking you to approve. No, you prefer making decisions that belong partly to other people." He flinched. Celeste continued. "You said Graham used control and called it protection. You are doing the same thing to Wren, to me. Do not compare me to him. Then stop using his language." The room became very quiet. Jonah looked at her as if she had struck him. "You think this is about you?" he said. "I think it is about all of us." "There is no all of us. You are my employer." "Not currently." "Exactly." The word hurt more than Celeste expected. She had spent years ensuring no one could make her feel abandoned without her permission. Jonah managed it with one accurate word. "Take Wren," she said. "Owen will arrange a secure hotel." "Celeste, you have resigned. The discussion is finished." He stared at her. For one moment, she wanted him to refuse. That had been the thing she noticed first. He did not leave merely because leaving was easier for everyone else. But Wren slept on the sofa between them. Jonah looked at his daughter and chose the fear he understood. He lifted her carefully. At the door, he stopped. I never used to, he said. Celeste kept her face still. That is a very narrow sentence. He left. The house became silent after the old borrowed car disappeared through the gate. Alma found Celeste in the library at 3 in the morning. The television was off. The evidence box sat on the table. Celeste held the broken firefly lamp in her lap. You opened the box, Alma said. Owen gave me the key. That is not what I meant. Celeste turned the warped brass key at the base. Nothing moved. He left, she said. Alma sat across from her. You told him to. He had already decided. And you made certain he could pretend the decision was mutual? Celeste looked at her. I am not discussing my personal failures with an employee. Then it is fortunate I stopped thinking of myself as one around the time you were 13. Alma reached for the lamp. Celeste allowed her to take it. This hinge is not broken, Alma said. The core is. I said the hinge. She opened one metal wing. The other resisted. Alma pressed near the crease, and the wing moved half an inch. Wren told me her mother made the wings removable, so she could change the paper behind the lights. Celeste looked closer. A tiny screw sat beneath the painted edge. Jonah opened the base. She said, not the wings. Alma removed the screw, using the point of a sewing tool from her pocket. Inside the left wing was a narrow strip of copper etched with a pattern. Not decoration. A circuit. Celeste's pulse changed. The right wing held a second strip. Elise had not built one key. She had built 3. The ceramic core was the archive. The wings were redundancy. Keep the light, not keep the base. Keep all of it. Celeste looked toward the dark windows. Call Priya, she said. Alma checked the clock. It is 3:19. She will be awake. And Jonah. Celeste looked at the 2 copper strips in Alma's hand. Not yet. It was a small act of control. It lasted 12 minutes. Then Wren appeared in the library doorway, wearing Jonah's coat over her pajamas. Jonah stood behind her. Celeste looked from him to the coat. You left? We reached the hotel. Wren refused to enter. I said it smelled like waiting, Wren explained. Jonah's gaze moved to the open firefly wing. He crossed the room slowly. What did you find? Celeste held up the copper strip. For the first time since the arrest, hope entered his face. It frightened him almost as much as loss. Elise built redundancy into the wings, Celeste said. Wren looked at Jonah. Mom always made 2 ways out. He closed his eyes. Yes, he said. She did. Wren walked between them and placed both hands on the evidence box. You are both doing the same bad thing, she said. Neither adult spoke. Dad says he is leaving to protect me. Ms. Arden says he can leave because she does not need him. But Dad wants to stay, and Ms. Arden wants him to stay. And I want everyone to stop deciding things alone. Jonah stared at his daughter. Celeste felt the truth of the sentence move through every defense she had built. Wren looked at Celeste. Are you angry because he lied or because he matters? There were questions children asked because they did not understand. This was not one of them. Celeste answered with difficulty. Both. Wren looked at Jonah. Are you leaving because it is safer or because you are scared she will send you away later? Jonah's face changed. Both, he said. Wren nodded, as if adults were finally becoming manageable. Then those are the real answers. She pushed the evidence box toward them. Now fix the light. Priya arrived at Arden House 41 minutes later, carrying an offline reader, 3 soldering tools, and a paper bag of coffee no one remembered to drink. Owen followed with a portable radio jammer and 2 guards he trusted enough to place outside rather than inside. They worked in the old morning room because it had thick stone walls and no smart devices. Alma removed the electric clock. Jonah checked the window latches. Celeste placed the manual chair beside the table, watched Priya fit microscopic contacts to the copper strips from the firefly's wings. Wren sat on the floor with a blanket around her shoulders. Can I watch? She asked. Jonah looked at the delicate leads. From there, no touching. I know. I am required to say it. You say many things. You are required to say. Celeste looked at Jonah. She gets that from you. I was going to say the same. It was not forgiveness. It was the first sound made after a storm, when people begin checking whether the house still stands. Priya powered the reader. The left wing produced a clean cryptographic key. The right contained an index of hidden sectors inside the damaged ceramic core. Elise had designed the system so the archive could reconstruct its directory, even if the central memory fractured. She expected physical destruction, Priya said. Jonah stared at the scrolling code. She expected people who understood the first backup. Using both wing keys, Priya recovered 68% of the archive. It was enough. They found signed messages between Halcyon executives and Graham Pike from 4 years earlier. Graham had approved continued development after the Lantern audit. He argued that remote authority would be the feature that made autonomous transit commercially viable. When Jonah issued the stop work order, Graham called him unstable and recommended his access be reduced. They found a payment from one of Graham's legal trusts to a private security contractor 2 days before the laboratory fire. They found a command test conducted on Celeste's vehicle 6 months before her crash. Then they found the message that made Jonah sit down. It was from Elise, sent to Graham at 9:14 the night of the fire. I have preserved the root audit outside Halcyon. If anyone is harmed, the archive survives. Stop the remote test. Let us meet with the investigator in the morning. Graham replied. 11 minutes later. You have mistaken your fear for moral authority. Thousands of jobs and an entire transportation platform cannot be sacrificed to satisfy 2 engineers who want certainty no system can provide. Elise sent one final message. Certainty is not the standard. Consent is. There was no reply. The laboratory containment command began at 11:58. Jonah read the exchange without moving. Wren could not see the screen from the floor. She saw her father's face. Is Mom there? He nodded. What did she say? Jonah took a breath. She said people should not lose control of their own machines without agreeing. Wren considered that. That sounds like her. Yes. Was she right? Yes. Wren pulled the blanket tighter and returned to the paper gear she was cutting. Grief sometimes entered children through side doors. It did not outways. B. The archive also contained the direct order tied to Celeste's crash. Graham did not right-kill her. Men like Graham rarely put the real verb in writing. He wrote, initiate corrective event, preserve subject, establish incapacity sufficient for governance transition, recover vehicle controller before external inspection. The private contractor replied, rain window preferred, local response can be attributed to sensor cascade. Celeste read the words once. Then again, her hands did not shake. That came later, when no one was looking. Preserve subject, she said. Priya looked away. Owen's jaw tightened. Jonah closed the message. You do not need to read more tonight. Celeste turned toward him. Do not decide that for me. I'm not. I'm saying there will be more tomorrow. She looked at the black screen. He did not want me dead. No one answered. He wanted me alive and unable to lead. The sentence was flat. It did not need emotion added to it. Celeste remembered Graham in the hospital. His hand around hers. His voice telling doctors to do whatever was necessary. The flowers he replaced each week because he said wilted things, made rooms surrender. The legal forms he brought when pain medication made paragraphs difficult. The board authority she signed for 90 days. He had not visited because he regretted what he had done. He had visited to measure whether it had worked. My fiancé left because Graham paid him, she said. Owen looked at the screen. There was a transfer to his consultancy 3 months after the crash. Celeste nodded once. The truth did not surprise her anymore. It merely found empty places to occupy. She rolled away from the table. Jonah followed her into the unheated conservatory. Outside, the river was a dark strip beyond the bare trees. Dawn had not yet begun. The glass walls reflected the room back at them. 2 people suspended inside a house too large for sleep. You should be with Wren, Celeste said. She is with Alma. That was not my point. I know. He stood beside a stone planter, filled with dead winter stems. Celeste looked at their reflection. When I woke after the crash, I could not feel my legs, she said. Everyone waited for me to ask whether I would walk again. I asked whether the board had signed the financing extension. Jonah said nothing. The doctor thought I was in shock. Graham understood. He brought the documents. I signed because the company was the only part of my life that still obeyed cause and effect. Work produced results, decisions had dates, bodies did neither. Her voice remained even. Then he began making decisions before I could. He said, recovery required rest. The board said, markets required continuity. My fiancé said he could not watch me become consumed by anger. Every person who took something from me called it care. Jonah leaned against the planter. So you made needing no one into a job? Celeste looked at him. That is an imprecise way to describe Brazilians. It was not criticism. It sounded like it. Most accurate things do when they arrive early. She almost smiled. It did not fully happen. And you, she asked, you made leaving first into protection? Yes. The answer was quiet. After Elise died, people wanted the part of the story that let them tell me what to do. Fight publicly. Move away. Forgive myself. Hate Halcyon. Raise Wren as if grief were a weather system I could keep outside. The house. Every choice felt like a test I had already failed because Elise was not there to make it with me. He looked through the glass, so I chose small machines. Lifts, doors, chairs, things that broke for reasons I could touch. I told myself I was done with systems large enough to hide responsibility. Then you sold my chair? Yes. And accepted the job because I could not walk away from the same code twice. Celeste looked at him. That is the first complete answer you have given me. I am trying a new policy. It will require review. Naturally, the first blue light of morning appeared beyond the river. Jonah's bandaged fingers rested on the stone planter. Celeste remembered those hands stopping the chair, rebuilding the lift, repairing a wing without erasing its crease. I was angry because you mattered, she said. The words were more difficult than the board testimony she knew was coming. Jonah did not move. Wren was correct, Celeste continued. I disliked that. She has that effect. Do not make this easier by becoming amusing. I am not sure I know another way to survive it. She looked at him directly. Are you leaving? He took time before answering, not without discussing it with the people affected. That is not yes. It is not no. A narrow sentence. A careful one. For the moment, it was enough. By sunrise, they had a plan. The board had scheduled the Aster demonstration for 48 hours later, advancing it by nearly 4 weeks. Graham's public explanation was confidence. The real reason was evidence. Once Aster entered municipal pilot service, shutting it down would require contracts, public agencies, and litigation. Complexity would become protection. Celeste could not stop the launch through Arden's internal chain. Her credentials were disabled. The board controlled the campus. Police held the partial drive. Graham's attorneys had obtained an emergency order, restricting Jonah from accessing Arden's systems. So they stopped thinking like Arden Motion. Priya resigned at 8:12. Owen resigned at 8:19. Alma informed Celeste she had never technically signed an employment renewal after the previous owner's estate closed, and therefore considered herself free to participate without paperwork. That is not how employment law works, Celeste said. Then sue me after breakfast. They established an independent entity using an inactive company Celeste had created years earlier for experimental projects. Wren named it Harbor Standard because Dad made the safe network harbor, she said. And because a standard is a rule people cannot pretend they missed. Celeste approved the name. Harbor Standard rented a machine shop from a retired rail engineer across the river. The building had concrete walls, manual locks, and a roof that leaked above the office, but not above the workbench. Jonah liked it immediately. Celeste did not. The entrance threshold is 1¼ inches, she said. I will fix it. The bathroom door is too narrow. I will fix that too. The lighting is inadequate. You can continue identifying flaws or let me begin correcting them. Both there. For 36 hours, the shop became a small, disciplined rebellion. Priya reconstructed the authority chain using the copper wing keys. Owen obtained access logs from 2 security officers who refused Graham's orders and were suspended. Celeste's attorneys filed an emergency petition challenging the board's medical leave vote. Jonah built a physical demonstration, showing how Aster's remote layer could seize a vehicle even when every visible safety system appeared normal. They did not publish the exploit. That mattered. Graham expected revenge. They gave him verification. Celeste contacted the State Transportation Commission and requested an emergency public safety hearing. The commission chair hesitated until Celeste read the command from her own crash record aloud. The hearing was set for 9 the next morning, 2 hours before the Aster demonstration. Graham's lawyers moved to close it. The commission refused. News crews gathered outside the old rail shop before dawn. Celeste entered through a side door because she wanted the evidence seen before her face became the story. Inside, Jonah adjusted the test rig, while Wren slept beneath a coat on the office sofa. The repaired firefly lamp sat on the workbench. Its ceramic core was still broken. Priya had bypassed it using the copper wings. Jonah had straightened the warped base and replaced the Wren bulb. One wing opened more slowly than the other. He wound the key. Small points of light moved across the concrete wall. You fixed it, Celeste said. Helped it move again. The crease stays. She remembered Wren's answer. That is still fixing. Jonah looked at her. The distance between them changed. Not dramatically. No music. No confession large enough to solve what remained. He rested one hand on the workbench beside hers. After the hearing, he said, I need to find Wren and me somewhere to live. Arden House has 42 bedrooms. That is not an ordinary rental offer. I did not say rental. Celeste. Temporary. Until your house is rebuilt or you choose another arrangement. Alma has already prepared rooms. You ordered rooms prepared before asking. I anticipated efficiency. You made a decision that belongs partly to other people. She heard her own accusation, returned without cruelty. Then discuss it with Wren, she said. And with me. He smiled slightly. New policy. Trial period. He looked at the moving lights on the wall. I would like that, he said. Celeste's hand shifted half an inch. His fingers touched hers. Neither moved away. From the sofa, Wren spoke without opening her eyes. If you are going to kiss, do it somewhere. I cannot hear the silence first. Jonah withdrew his hand. Celeste turned toward the sofa. You were asleep. I was trying. Continue. Wren pulled the coat over her head. Jonah looked at Celeste. This time, she did smile. At 7:30, Graham Pike arrived at Arden House. He did not know it was empty, except for 2 state investigators and a camera Owen had placed in the front hall. Graham entered using an old family key. He went directly to the wine vault. The investigators watched him try both locks, discover the lamp was gone, and call someone. They recovered the archive, he said. Move the locks to 10. Activate the municipal units before the hearing concludes. Once passengers are aboard, no commissioner will order an uncontrolled shutdown. The call was recorded. For the first time, they had Graham's voice tied to the plan. It should have ended the matter. It did not. At 8:16, the commission received notice that 6 Aster vehicles had left Forge 9 under board authorization and were moving toward downtown pickup stations. The launch had already begun. The Transportation Commission chamber occupied the 2nd floor of the sandstone government building that had been designed before microphones, cameras, or powered wheelchairs existed. A temporary ramp had been installed at the side entrance. It was too steep. Jonah stopped beside it. We have 4 minutes, Celeste said. And a ramp built by someone who believes gravity accepts deadlines. Owen found a freight entrance around the corner. They entered through a corridor lined with folding chairs and boxes of archived forms. By the time Celeste reached the hearing room, every seat was filled. Graham sat at the witness table with 3 attorneys and Arden Motion's interim chief operating officer. He wore the same navy suit he had worn on television. His expression showed patience, concern, and no visible fear. That changed when he saw Priya carrying the repaired firefly lamp inside a clear case, only slightly. Celeste noticed. The commission chair called the emergency hearing to order at 9:03. We are here to determine whether the Aster urban transport pilot presents an immediate public safety risk, she said. We have also received notice that vehicles associated with the pilot have entered public streets before this hearing concluded. Mr. Pike, did the board authorize that deployment? Graham leaned toward the microphone. The vehicles are operating under previously approved municipal testing permits. No passengers are at risk. Priya's laptop displayed a city map. 6 blue points moved toward downtown. One had already reached a pickup station. That statement is no longer accurate, Priya said. Vehicle 4 has opened for boarding. The chair looked at Graham. All of the vehicles returned. The operations team is assessing the safest procedure. An abrupt recall may create confusion. Celeste understood the strategy. Delay until people were inside. Then use the presence of passengers as a reason not to interfere with the system. Graham controlled. He had done the same thing with the company, the same thing with her body. Create dependence, then call intervention dangerous. The commission chair turned to Celeste. Ms. Arden, you requested this hearing. Present your evidence. Celeste moved to the witness table. Cameras turned toward her. She disliked the sound of shutters more than she remembered. Aster contains an undocumented remote authority layer inherited from Halcyon Controls, she said. That layer can supersede local vehicle commands. It was concealed from safety auditors and municipal partners, and Arden Motion's own systems director. The same authority architecture was placed inside my powered wheelchair and used to control it without my consent. Graham Satarni objected. The commission chair reminded him this was an administrative safety hearing, not a trial. Celeste continued. 26 months ago, the same architecture disabled the local controls in my vehicle and maintained motor power after a collision. The crash was not a random sensor failure. It was a governance action. A murmur moved to the room. Graham looked at her with sorrow. It was the expression he used when he wanted others to believe she was in pain, rather than correct. Celeste, he said, you have been through an extraordinary trauma. No one disputes that, but these conclusions come from a former Halcyon employee who was arrested inside your company during a cyber attack. Jonah sat behind Celeste, with Wren beside him. He did not react. Celeste looked at Graham. You arranged for that arrest before the alleged breach occurred. Owen submitted the time-stamped containment order and warrant draft. Priya submitted the copper wing keys and the recovered archive index. The state investigators submitted the recording from Arden House. Graham's voice played through the chamber. They recovered the archive. Move the launch to 10. Activate the municipal units before the hearing concludes. No one murmured this time. Silence was heavier. Graham's attorney leaned toward him. Graham did not look away from Celeste. A recording made inside a private residence without proper context proves very little, he said. Then context should help, Celeste replied. Priya opened the reconstructed message archive. She displayed the lantern's stop work order, Elise's final warning, the payment to the security contractor, and the corrective EAD instruction tied to Celeste's vehicle. Graham's name appeared on every chain. He did not collapse. He did not confess. People who justified themselves for years rarely surrendered because the room finally understood them. Yes, he said. I authorized extraordinary safeguards. Arden Motion employed 6,000 people. Halcyon Technology represented 7 years of research and billions in investment. 2 engineers decided that a theoretical vulnerability gave them authority to destroy all of it. Jonah stood. The commission chair told him to wait until called. He remained standing, but silent. Graham looked directly at him. Your wife understood the stakes and chose escalation. What happened at that laboratory was a containment failure during an illegal test. You transformed grief into accusation because guilt was harder to live with. Wren's hand closed around Jonah's. He sat again. Celeste answered for him. Elise Mercer did not ask for certainty. She asked for consent. She placed the printed message on the table. You built a system that could take control from people without their knowledge. When engineers objected, you erased them. When I objected, you disabled me. Then you stood beside my hospital bed and called. Governance, transition, care. Graham's calm finally cracked. I preserved what you built. You preserved your authority over it. You were going to stop Aster. Yes, you would have destroyed the company. Then the company needed to be stopped. The sentence left no room for the mythology of founders or markets. The company was not alive. It did not feel betrayal. It did not bury spouses or raise children or wake in the night unable to trust its own chair. People did. On Priya's map, Vehicle 4 began moving away from the pickup station. 3 passengers were inside. It is not responding to municipal dispatch, Priya said. The commission room changed from hearing to emergency. Graham looked toward his attorney. Celeste saw the movement. You activated remote authority, she said. The operations team did. Under whose command? He did not answer. Priya opened Harbor Standards test interface. We can see the route traffic, but we cannot issue commands without entering the same authority layer. If we do that over the public network, we risk exposing the control path. Can the driver stop locally? The chair asked. Aster has no driver. On the map, Vehicle 4 turned toward the River Boulevard instead of the approved route. 2 other vehicles began moving at the same time. Jonah came to the witness table. There is a physical isolation circuit in every early Aster chassis, he said. Halcyon required it during prototype testing. Arden removed the external label, but the circuit remains. Priya looked at him. The service isolation beneath the rear access panel. No, that only drops the visible controller. The lantern audit required a separate mechanical break between the power regulator and authority bus. Elise designed it so software could not close it again. Where? Jonah drew a simple shape on the commission clerk's notepad. Priya photographed the sketch and sent it to the city's emergency teams. The vehicle has to stop before anyone can reach it, she said. The isolation also triggers below walking speed, Jonah replied. The passenger can access it from inside if they know where to press. The commission chair ordered the Aster cabin connected to the chamber by emergency audio. A man's frightened voice answered. A woman was crying in the background. A child asked why the doors would not open. Wren moved closer to Celeste. Jonah spoke into the microphone. His voice became the voice he used when Wren was frightened. Clear. Ordinary. No promise beyond the next action. He told the passenger where to find the lower seat panel. He told him to remove the red fabric tab and pull the lever behind it, only after the vehicle slowed at the next turn. What if it does not slow? The man asked. It will slow for the turn. Wait until you feel it. Do not pull early. The vehicle approached the intersection. Everyone in the chamber watched the blue point. It slowed. Now, Jonah said. The audio filled with a hard mechanical snap. Vehicle 4 stopped. The doors opened. The child inside began crying loudly, which was the best sound in the room. Emergency crews reached the other vehicles within minutes. 2 were stopped using the isolation lever. The remaining units returned automatically when Priya severed their authority certificates through the municipal gateway. No one was injured. The commission suspended Aster's permits indefinitely. State investigators escorted Graham from the hearing room before noon. He was not handcuffed in front of the cameras. He left between 2 officials while his attorneys spoke quietly beside him. His company badge remained on the table. The villain simply lost. There was no applause. Celeste did not want any. Outside, reporters shouted questions about attempted murder, corporate control, and whether she would return as CEO. Celeste stopped at the top of the temporary ramp. Jonah looked at its angle. Freight entrance, he said. She looked at the cameras waiting below. For 2 years, other people decided which entrances were appropriate for her. Side doors, service corridors, freight elevators. Practical routes presented as favors. No, she said. Owen moved beside the ramp. Jonah took the other side. Together, they controlled the manual chair as Celeste descended slowly through the front entrance. She did not need the image. The building did. At the bottom, she faced the cameras. Arden Motion will cooperate with every investigation, she said. Aster will not return to public testing until its control architecture is rebuilt, independently verified, and made transparent to the people expected to trust it. No schedule, valuation, or executive authority is more important than informed consent. A reporter asked whether she would retake control of the company. The board removed me using falsified medical authority. A court will address that. But leadership is not a chair someone protects for you. It is responsibility you accept when protection becomes an excuse. For silence, she looked toward Jonah and Wren. The people who exposed this system did so at great cost. Their work will not be hidden again. That afternoon, the court invalidated Celeste's medical leave. By evening, 7 board members resigned. The next morning, the remaining directors offered to restore her as chief executive. Celeste declined. Under their terms, she would return only if Arden Motion separated product safety from executive control, funded an independent audit body, published all override policies, and gave Harbor Standard permanent authority to stop any launch without board approval. The directors resisted for 43 minutes. Then they agreed. Harbor Standard moved from the leaking rail shop into a renovated building beside Forge 9. Though Jonah insisted the old shop remain open for independent community projects, Priya became its technical director. Owen led systems integrity. Alma refused a title and continued making decisions no organizational chart could explain. Jonah became director of field safety. He accepted only after the contract stated that he could stop work without executive permission, report directly to regulators, and leave at 3:15 on school days. Celeste revised the last time to 3:10. Traffic, she said. He signed. Wren and Jonah moved into the east wing of Arden House temporarily. Temporary lasted through the rebuilding of their rented house, through the insurance dispute, and through the discovery that neither of them wanted to return to a narrow kitchen, holding only the absence of the old one. Wren chose a bedroom overlooking the workshop courtyard. On her first night, she taped a paper sign to the door. Wren's room. Knock unless fire. Beneath it, she added, or pancakes. Celeste read the sign the next morning. Those exceptions are not equivalent. They are both emergencies, Wren said. The firefly lamp sat on her bedside table. Its light was weaker than before. One wing opened late. The moving stars crossed the ceiling in an uneven circle. Wren preferred it that way. Now you can tell which one is ours, she said. 3 months after the hearing, Celeste returned to physical therapy with Dr. Nisha Farrow. She had never stopped therapy completely. She had stopped expecting it to return anything she could name. The pressure she felt during Jonah's motor test remained. Some days it was only a vibration. Other days it became warmth beneath her right foot. Nisha called it incomplete sensory return and refused both optimism and dismissal. Your body is not a quarterly report, she said. It does not owe you a forecast. Celeste disliked the sentence. She continued therapy. Jonah did not attend unless invited. That mattered. He did not turn each new sensation into a public hope. He did not watch her legs for proof that the future had improved. He asked whether she wanted coffee afterward. He complained about the therapy room's door closer. He treated movement as information, not worth. On a rainy Thursday, why in April, Nisha placed Celeste between parallel bars and asked her to transfer weight through both feet. Celeste had done it before, with most of her weight in her arms. This time, her right leg answered. Not strongly enough. She rose 6 inches from the chair. Then more. Nisha's hands remained near her hips without touching. Celeste stood. The room did not change. No music began. No one became whole. Her arms shook. Her left knee required the brace. Her right foot felt as if it belonged to a distant relative. She remained upright for 31 seconds. Then she sat down. Nisha wrote the time on the chart. Celeste looked at the closed door. You can call him, Nisha said. I did not ask. No. Celeste called Jonah. He arrived 12 minutes later with Wren. Because school had ended, and because ordinary life did not pause, for dramatic timing. Wren entered, carrying a half-finished cardboard turbine. Did you stand? Celeste looked at Nisha. Confidentiality appears weak here. You called from the therapy room, Jonah said. The inference was available. Celeste placed both hands on the bars. 31 seconds. Jonah's face changed. Pride, fear, relief, and restraint passed through it. He did not say he knew she could. He did not say everything would be different. He said, how did it feel? Difficult. That sounds honest. It was also mine. He nodded. Wren set down the turbine and hugged Celeste carefully around the shoulders. Does this mean you will walk everywhere now? No why. Good dad walks too slowly in stores. Jonah looked offended. I compare prices? You read every label? That is how comparing works. Celeste laughed. Her right foot pressed against the floor. She felt it. Later, in the empty therapy corridor, Jonah walked beside her chair. I need to tell you something, without Wren correcting the structure, he said. That removes useful quality control. I will risk it. They stopped near a window overlooking the river. I love you, he said. No speech around it. No explanation to make the words safer. Celeste looked at him. For most of her life, love had arrived carrying claims. Access, loyalty, gratitude, permission. Graham had loved her father and believed that entitled him to govern the daughter. Her fiancé had loved a version of her that did not require him to confront discomfort. The board loved the founder, while removing the woman. Jonah's love waited. It did not move her chair. It did not decide the answer. I love you too, she said. He leaned down. She met him halfway. Wren opened the therapy door behind them. I knew the silence was suspicious. They separated. You were told to wait with Nisha, Jonah said. She said I could find you. Nisha appeared behind her. I said no such thing. Wren considered escape, decided dignity was more available, and walked toward the elevator. We need pancakes, she said. The following winter, Arden House held 23 people on the night before Christmas. Not a party large enough to fill the rooms, enough to make the hallways sound lived in. Priya brought her parents. Owen brought a woman no one had met and introduced her as a friend, until Alma asked the friend which side of the bed she preferred and ended the fiction. Nisha arrived late from the hospital. Engineers from Harbor Standard crowded around the dining table with Wren's teachers, 2 neighbors, and the retired rail engineer who still complained about the renovated threshold. The chair at the head of the table remained Celeste's. No one mistook that for isolation anymore. After dinner, Wren placed the firefly lamp beneath the tree. It is not a present, Jonah said. I know, and why is it there? Because Mom kept the light, and we kept it after her. She wound a brass key. The wings opened unevenly. Stars moved across the wrapped gifts. The floor, the wheels of Celeste's chair, and Jonah's old green truck visible through the front window. He had refused to replace it even after Arden Mo. Pia-san offered him a company car. Celeste had the cracked mirror repaired. Nothing else. Wren sat between them on the rug. Are we permanent now? She asked. Jonah looked at Celeste. Celeste looked at the rooms beyond the tree, at the house that had once converted absence into architecture. You have been permanent for some time, she said. That is not the real answer. Jonah smiled. She gets that from you? Celeste reached into a small box beside her chair and handed Wren a brass key. It opened the east workshop, the study, and the front door. This house is yours to enter, Celeste said. You still have to knock on my office. Wren closed her hand around the key. And Dad? Celeste held out a second key. Jonah did not take it immediately. Discussed with everyone affected? He asked. Alma objected to the key design. Wren requested a pancake clause. Owen completed a security review. I believe the process was exhaustive. And what are you asking? Celeste looked at him. Stay not because leaving is dangerous. Not because I need saving. Stay because I want a life in which your truck blocks my courtyard, and your daughter rewrites my job descriptions and you tell me when my machines are lying. Jonah took the key. That sounds difficult. It will be. Then yes. Wren covered her face when they kissed, but left enough space between her fingers to make sure it happened. People later told the story as if a wheelchair-bound CEO had offered a single dad a job and discovered he was hiding a dangerous secret. That was true. It was not the whole truth. The secret was dangerous because powerful people had made honesty expensive. A remote system, a hidden archive, a burned laboratory, a name buried beneath calm explanations. Jonah carried the evidence for years because every institution that should have protected the truth had first asked whether the truth was convenient. But the archive was not the most important thing he concealed. He hid how badly he wanted to trust someone again. Celeste hid the same thing behind better contracts. He believed protection meant taking the danger and walking away alone. She believed strength meant needing no one who could leave. Both of them had confused isolation with control, because isolation at least obeyed the person choosing it. Wren saw through that sooner. Children often do. She understood that a secret could be carried without making one person carry everything. That a broken lamp could contain more than one path back to the light. That adults sometimes used careful words to avoid simple truths. Elise Mercer did not survive the Halcyon fire. Nothing that happened afterward repaired that loss. Justice did not restore the kitchen wall marked with Wren's height. It did not return the blue cup, or the years Jonah spent turning grief into smaller work. It did not make Wren's mother a lesson designed for other people's comfort. What justice did was return her name to the work. Harbor Standard's primary consent protocol became the Elise rule. No remote authority over a person's movement without visible disclosure, local refusal, and a physical means of exit. The rule appeared in transit systems, medical equipment, elevators, and machines not yet imagined. When Elise etched 2 copper keys into the wings of a child's lamp, Celeste returned to Arden Motion. But she did not return to the company Graham had preserved. She changed it, not perfectly. Institutions do not become moral because one villain leaves. They become safer through structures that assume every leader, including the good ones, may someday be wrong. Harbor Standard remained independent. Its stop-work authority could not be cancelled by Celeste, Jonah, or any board vote. That was the point. Celeste continued using her chair. Some days she walked between parallel bars. Later, she used braces and a cane for short distances. Other days, pain or fatigue made standing unreasonable. And the chair gave her speed, reach, and freedom. The 31s, Econs mattered. They did not make her worthy of the life waiting outside the therapy room. She had already confronted the man who tried to remove her authority. She had already rebuilt a company around consent. She had already opened the front door. Her body did not have to symbolize courage for anyone. Jonah never returned to the kind of engineering career he had once imagined. He built something narrower and larger at the same time. A place where the person identifying the danger did not have to become anonymous to be heard. A place where stopping a launch was counted as work, not failure. A place where he could leave at 3:10 and still be considered serious. He showed up. That was the whole job. The firefly lamp remained on Wren's bedside table until she left for college. By then, the blue paint had faded. The left wing clicked. The right opened 1 second late. The ceramic core inside remained broken and empty, because the recovered archive belonged in public evidence, not in a child's room. But the copper strip stayed inside the wings, not as a secret, as a record. Some nights, Wren wound the key and the moving stars crossed the ceiling of Arden House. They passed over the paper machines on her shelves, over the brass key beside her bed, and through the open door her father no longer closed to hide his worry. Down the hall, Celeste's chair rested beside a workbench built at the correct height. Jonah's old truck waited in the courtyard. The house made ordinary sounds, pipes settling, someone laughing. Alma telling a guest where not to place a wet glass. No system was completely safe. No person could promise never to leave. Trust was not the absence of danger. It was the decision to stop carrying danger alone.